What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in. It is a solo mailbag edition of the High Hopes podcast as James Salter is still in London. And, time difference is no joke. He's like 6 hours ahead of us. So, unfortunately, we just couldn't work it out timing-wise to record, which is a shame because I texted him yesterday and I was like, all I want to do is do a High Hopes podcast because there's so much I want to talk about. There's so much to get into. It feels like we haven't recorded one in forever because, again, he's been over in London. So I said, got to do at least a mailbag edition tonight and get some takeaways from the London series and all that good stuff. So I have some takeaways I want to get into, some big picture, some micro stuff from the London series. During that time, just get some questions in the comments on YouTube or Facebook or on X or Twitter, and we'll go through it in about 10 to 15 minutes. So get your questions in. I'll answer as many as I can. We got James Jackson behind the scenes today, as again, it seems like everyone is over in London. Tucker's over in London. Unfortunately, little old me couldn't get over there. So I definitely played it up like I wasn't mad, and then seeing everyone over there, furious. It looked like a great time, and that's actually my first big takeaway from the London series is it felt big. Like it's very rare that a regular season baseball game feels big, and it was so funny because while I knew that it was regular season baseball, I wanted to win those games so bad. It felt like a playoff game. Like it felt like win or go home. We cannot lose this game. All while trying to keep it in perspective that they were 45-19 heading into the game on Sunday, and it felt big. So I think baseball did a really good job of setting the scene, having enough big stars. Although I didn't understand Saturday. It's Fox is obviously covering the game. How they don't have the pregame show there. They are live at Monument Park for Yankees Dodgers instead of being in London as again, a quote unquote showcase series. Yankees Dodgers is a huge deal. If I was scheduling it, crazy concept. Maybe let's put that game a week later so that it's not overlapping again, one of your kind of showcase games. But, it was a lot like the in-season tournament in the NBA, and I know a lot of people did not like the in-season tournament. I came around to it, and those games, maybe it was the corny courts or whatever, but they felt pretty big. They felt different than just your regular season game, and that's how the London series kind of felt. Obviously, the Phillies being in it, all the pageantry, it was remarkable. The amount of 08 guys that were there. Obviously the Always Sunny thing was a pretty good bit, but the way they were panning to all the stars kind of in the boxes, I will say some lack of Mets, if I'm being completely honest. It seems like the Mets fans, it was very cute yesterday in the game. They started a "Let's Go Mets" chant, and it quickly got drowned out by obviously all the Phillies fans. And I thought baseball did a really, really good job with it. And I didn't hate having 10 a.m. baseball on a Sunday. Now, it made the rest of my Sunday pretty much useless. But it was good. And I think baseball did a really good job. And I'm sure the Phillies will go back over. I mean, obviously, baseball is going to try to pick the teams that have a good enough following to where they will make the trip across the pond. I mean, I wonder if they'll send a West Coast team. I mean, I know the Dodgers fans travel well, but I wonder if they would do that. But it kind of seems like maybe Orioles and Yankees, Red Sox. They did go Midwest when they did Cardinals Cubs last year. But I would not expect this to be the last time the Phillies were in it. They'll probably have to wait at least, I guess, 5 years because it seems like they put a lot of, they brought in a lot of star power for this one London series game. But it looked like, UK Phillies, Dave Shaw was the star of the town of London the last week. So really happy for him, and it was a really good show. The morning show with WIP, they had Cole on, and they had Matt Stairs, and they had Ryan Madsen on. So it was a pretty cool event. Now for the games, my big takeaways from the games is, one, let's get into this. Mechanical adjustments to Taiwan Walker. And again, had they won the game, had they, made the correct decision and gone to Matt Strom, we'll get to that. I feel like Londoners are going to say, wow, Taiwan Walker really was the best pitcher we've ever seen here, because those games have traditionally gone way over. I mean, there's been a lot of offense in those games, and this one seemed way more toned down. The turf was pretty ridiculous. I mean, the way the balls are bouncing all over the place, it's kind of wild to see it. It was almost old vet days where the ball was just flying all over the place. So, but it didn't really affect too many runs. I mean, I know Starling Marte with the Edmundo Sosa play, that was pretty wild, and Johan Rojas misplayed a ball, but I didn't think it was too wonky, I guess, out on the turf. So, but Taiwan, it was funny because most mechanical adjustments they make in the bullpen, I'd be all in on. Taiwan looked good. And I think the one thing that was interesting about the Taiwan start was that it looked like he was just having a lot more conviction in what he was throwing. Sometimes with Taiwan, he gets into these modes where it's please don't hit it. And for pitchers, one of the first things they teach you is you have to believe every single pitch that you're about to throw is going to be nasty, because if you have any hesitation that it's going to do what you want it to do, it's probably going to get ripped. If you second guess, it's actually better and smarter to just dumb it way down on the mound, in my opinion. Don't think that much. It's why I always liked having my pitching coach and catcher kind of call the game, and I would just trust them, because I wanted to not have to think as much on the mound, and I just wanted to be okay, grip it and rip it. And I think Taiwan gets kind of stuck in these modes where it's please don't hit it, please don't hit it. I mean, again, I don't blame him. Stuff was getting ripped, but it was, I thought at least yesterday, at least in that one start, I think we saw a little bit more conviction behind some of Taiwan stuff. Maybe they added some depth, I thought, to the cutter a little bit. Even the splitter, which we documented was getting hit at a 515 clip, looked like it had some bite to it. So in a perfect world, Taiwan's just a serviceable 5, and he's largely been that. It's kind of jarring to watch Taiwan, given what the other 4 starters have watched, or what the other 4 starters have done. But if he can just be serviceable and give him a chance every 5th day and not exit after 4 innings and 5 innings, I think it would just obviously go a long way towards being in line with everyone else in the bullpen. So I think it was or everyone else in the rotation. I think it was a positive step forward for Taiwan. I'm not going to say he's back. I'm not going to say the contract was a steal, but I think at least you saw some glimpses of a serviceable pitcher, and he pitched really well, especially in that ballpark that has traditionally led to a lot of runs and some overs. Taiwan deserves credit. So I thought Taiwan at least took a step forward. Some other bullpen thoughts. I mean, if you're listening to this, obviously you are a diseased, high hopes fan, and I appreciate you so much. I really do. But there was a lot of the opening day kind of takes yesterday flying around from people who tuned into the London series that are not aware that the Phillies have a ridiculous bullpen. It's so annoying when they get put on the national stage like that, and people are paying attention more so than they are games in the middle of the week or whatever. Jose Alvarado had a bad day. I agree with Rob Thompson after the game. He said his stuff looked really good. He was just missing. That's what I saw too. Jose Alvarado on opening day was bad. He was 100% bad. From that point on, he had a 1.35 ERA until yesterday. So which sample size am I going to take? Am I going to take opening day, yesterday, or am I going to take everything in between that was really, really good? And the good part about yesterday, the most important part about yesterday, is that the stuff was back to 99, 100 instead of the 96, 97, which we've kind of seen in recent outings. We're seriously doing the Jose Alvarado's a problem thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then you go the Soto Strom decision. I thought was egregious. Like, I didn't like the Soto Strahm thing at all. Like, you brought in Strahm anyway. Why? I know that Soto hadn't pitched in a week. You can tell me all you want about his numbers against Nimmo and JD Martinez. Really, really small sample size, by the way. It just made no sense. Like, they went to commercial break, and I said, perfect. You get Taiwan out of the game, and here's Matt Strahm. They come back from commercial break. Again, Michael K. and I'm very pro Tim Kirchin. I love Duncan Landfill. I mean, Michael K. I can't do it. I couldn't take the way he said Schwarber. He kept saying like Schwarber, which drove me nuts. He said Castellanos. Like, not even like you are. First off, he's an everyday Major League Baseball broadcaster. Like, he follows the sport, you would think. I thought I'd be like fine with K calling national games because my like Yankees fans friends I think he's okay. He's just, I mean, he almost ruined the comeback in 2022 against the Cardinals. And like, thank God it was only a 2-game series, and that's all we had to put up with. Thank God last year we had Ravi and David Cohn and Eduardo Perez, because I mean, even that is a huge upgrade over Michael K. It was bad. But they come back from break, and it's Gregory Soto on the mound, and I'm like, hold on, this isn't extra innings. This isn't the 10th inning with the possible chance to lose the ball game here. Why is Gregory Soto in? It was such a strong spot. It was such a strong spot, and the good part is, that's so, for me, that's out of character for Rob Thompson. And I think if that's a playoff game, I think if that's a game that they had to have, Matt Strahm's in that spot. He gets the final out, and then he pitches the next inning. Like, it actually set up really well. It was 3-0. It was the end of the 5th. He pitches the 6th, or maybe it was end of the 6th. Whatever. Like, it was set up really well, where they can go Strahm, Hoffman, Alvarado, Strahm, Alvarado, Hoffman. Like, however they wanted to kind of do it. Like, it was pretty well situated, and it didn't happen, and that's frustrating because it was a winnable game. You had the David Dahl moment late, which was really, really fun, and regardless, but yeah, the reaction and the takes off the bullpen yesterday were insane to me, like literally insane to me. I think the Phillies bullpen is in a really, really healthy spot. I think Soto is 100% a question mark. Outside of Soto, I don't know if there is a question mark. I really don't. You know, I kid you not, I have not stopped thinking about the Kerkering inning from Saturday since. It is 9:10 on Monday, and I'm still thinking about 97 with Sank to Pete Alonso. You know, I'm still thinking about dotting the outside corner against Brandon Nimmo and him starting to sprint to first base, and Kerkering is just dealing, you know. And first off, I'm really happy because like a month ago, I was kind of watching him, and I'm like, man, if he does not get conviction with that fastball, he's just way too predictable. These guys are going to be able to square him up. And to his credit, and I think to Caleb Coughlin's credit, he has gotten the conviction behind his fastball that he needed to really believe in it. And it's not just he's throwing 100, which he did hit 100 over the weekend. I think the guns and the whatever they calculate exit velocity with out of London was a little bit off. I mean, Nick Castellanos apparently hit the hardest ball of his career with that home run, and I just refuse to believe that was more well struck than the home run off of Strider in the postseason. There's just no way. So I think the guns were a little bit juiced, but if they weren't, Kerkering hit 100, which is incredibly exciting. So he hit 100, but he's finally got two different fastballs. One, the 100, and then the 97 or whatever with Sink. And it just makes him so much more unhittable and makes that sweeper, which again is one of the best pitches in the sport, it makes it that much better. Like, it's so hard to consistently square him up. So I think you're starting to see some real moxie develop with him. And let's say Alvarado falls off a little bit here, or I really don't think Hoffman will. Like, I think Hoffman is pretty solidified. Man, I really think Kerkering could take the closer job and run with it. I think he's got the makeup. You're starting to see that kind of develop in front of our eyes. Like, he's starting to add some little oomph, He's starting to have some stones. So man, I think Kirk Herring is taking a huge step forward. And outside of the Soto thing, and obviously Alvarado wasn't his best inning. Bullpen is just really, really locked down. I want to talk about David Dahl because, of course, me and Seltzer are big Dahlmen. We love David Dahl. We've loved David Dahl for years. Got him on a minor league deal. Like the fact that they're getting what they're getting out of David Dahl, Spencer Turnbull, Jose Ruiz, like these guys that were signed for essentially nothing. I mean, this is part of winning baseball. You want to go to Edmundo? Sure. I mean, Edmundo is a part of that. That was a trade 2 years ago, but he is paying huge dividends. But David Dahl, I think he's playing well enough to where I'm not in the camp that would send him back down when Marsh is back. Like, David Dahl is a major leaguer. He's been a major leaguer. He was an all-star in 2019. We know that. And the swing looks good. Like, I mean, he's ripping baseballs right now. Will he cool off? Probably. I don't know if he's going to be the best hitter of all time. But I don't hate the idea of a Dahl Marsh little center field, left field platoon here when he comes back and see if they can't just take off and run with that thing. Because, again, if they can get healthy David Dahl, like the biggest thing that held back David Dahl the last couple of years is he just couldn't stay healthy. He could not stay healthy at all. And man, like getting him out of Colorado, I know he's with the Padres last year. I don't know, man. I'm excited, and I hope that they may have unearthed a bit of a gem here and someone that can help him. At least be a guy that could pop a home run off the bench like he did on Sunday in a playoff spot. Like, again, Whit Merrifield had a good 2-game series out in London. It was nice to see some signs of life from Whit. I mean, in a perfect world heading into the playoffs, this is probably too many bench guys. But I don't know. But if you have Clemens, Dahl, Sosa, Merrifield, and obviously probably doesn't work because that's a lot. Because they got to make a decision on Pache Rojas. But theoretically, who knows how the rest of the roster kind of shakes out. Some pretty good options if Whit Merrifield cannot be done. And I hope he's not done because I think he would really help this team. The Whit Merrifield they signed that could get a lot of hits. Yes, I know that he cooled off at the end of last year with the Blue Jays after getting injured. But again, he was hitting 300 until August. So if they could get Whit Merrifield to be serviceable, David Dahl, maybe real. Cody Clemens, we'll see. Edmundo. And then whatever they do with Pache Rojas, it's just that's the makings of a pretty good bench. And maybe you don't have to go trade for a guy at the deadline. So, a lot of thoughts there on the bullpen. What else did I have? Philly's offense, it's so interesting because you look up and down the lineup, and if you go by singular numbers, it's not wow, it's not unbelievable. I think the best way to describe the Phillies offense, again, they're still number 2 in runs per game. Have they cooled off? Yeah, it's been a bit annoying here with the offense recently. And Bryce is obviously NL Player of the Month. But I think what the identity of this Phillies offense is a different guy each night. And that's why it's like so hard to have like a really strong, this offense is going to be a huge problem, because it seems like once a night, it's some random, it's not the same guy every night. I keep waiting for the Schwarber run. We all are. Harper's been really good. Bohm was good, has really cooled off. JT has kind of cooled off. Trey's coming back soon. But one of those guys, it seems like, is getting a big hit every single night. And it's the bottom of the lineup. Like, sure, on paper, the lineup at the bottom is like, man, they got some holes after 5, with like Castellanos down there, Stott's down in the 240s. Edmundo's been fantastic. We know that. And then it's like Rojas, Pache, Dahl, and it's like, man, they look a little weak. But every single night, it seems like one of those guys is stepping up and getting a big hit and helping them win a ball game. It's how you get to 45 and 20. It's one guy picking up another guy. And I think it's a sign of a good team. Could they use it by the deadline? We'll see. We'll see how big they want to go with the deadline, and if they want to really kind of shake things up and get a big bat in here, we'll see. But I think the best way to describe this Phillies offense, while on paper doesn't look super wow, is that if you watch them night in, night out, someone's getting a big hit. Someone's getting a big hit. And final thing here, again, we're looking for some mailbag questions, YouTube. Twitter, all that good stuff. The final thing that I want to get to is Rob Thompson won his 200th game as a manager over the weekend, and I just continue. Now, did not have a great game Sunday. I thought we had the genius card ready to get pulled out with the David Dahl pinch hit home run. Soto Strong was a big old setback. But, I think Rob Thompson actually has been pretty underrated here. Like, I know when he first showed up and they went on the run and we saw all the Philly Rob stuff. I think Rob Thompson is a difference-making manager. I really do. I think obviously what he does is he's a steadying presence in the locker room. They all trust him. He has their back, and they go out and play hard for him. They told a story, and we'd heard this before, but I think it bears repeating. That Kyle Schwarber, said that if anyone ever came after our manager, we'd have 25 guys in the front step and going out and taking them on. Like they really do ride or die with the guy. And it's so Charlie-like. Like, it's so Charlie-like with the way that they talked about Charlie in 06 through, whenever they moved on from him, it feels very similar with how the two teams really talk about their manager. And I think he has emotional intelligence with this team. I think he has a really good pulse on who needs a day, who doesn't need a day, really just kind of trusting his guys. I just hope that in the postseason, the trust doesn't come back to bite them, because it has the last 2 years. It has come back to bite them. I think this time around he'll probably have he'll probably be quicker with it. Like, I don't think he's going to do the same thing he did the last two postseasons. But part of why they've had the best record in baseball, I think, is because of Rob Thompson's steadiness. And in-game decisions are largely good. I largely agree with him. Did not agree with him on Sunday with the Soto Strom decision. But he does a really, really good job. And 200 victories this fast into a managerial career, like, it's pretty fast. It's a pretty good run they've been on. So congrats to Thompson for getting number 200. And I thought it was so funny that he did not know the Harper celebration was a soccer celebration. Like, that's my manager. So locked in on the game. We don't have time for soccer. But either way, congrats to Rob Thompson for number 200. All right, let's do it. James Jackson, what is the first question in the High Hopes mailbag? All right, our guy, Ben Silver. By the way, follow on YouTube, Nothing If Not Inconsistent. The best Phillies YouTube videos out there. So, thoughts on Mick Abel? He had another rough outing last night in Buffalo. Should the Phillies try and trade him for his value craters more, or risk waiting to see if he can reach his potential? So, Mick Abel is an interesting case. I'm sure a team would take a shot on him as maybe more of a flyer. I know he's still in the top 75, top 60 of a lot of prospect lists, but I think if you talk to like evaluators, Clausen's probably jumped him from a value standpoint. I would even argue that Michael Mercado has. So I'm actually surprised. Now, maybe the right trade didn't kind of manifest itself now for Mick Abel, but there's been these questions with him for a little bit now. And when I've watched him, I thought in spring you started to see the command developing. And what is frustrating about Mick Abel is glove side, I don't think he'll ever consistently be able to command a glove side fastball. Glove side is obviously, his left side, and, into lefties, away from righties. It just seems like he's always missing, away to right, away to lefties, and up and into righties. Like, I think that's the big issue. So it's definitely been. I thought in spring he was starting to put it together. I was excited about Mick Abel again. It seems like he's taken a step back so far in the Lehigh Valley season, and again his value's down. It's definitely down, but maybe someone still takes a shot on him because of where he's ranked and his pedigree and stuff like that. It would probably have to be the right org. I'm surprised that the Phillies haven't, because the Phillies again are a pretty well developed pitching, obviously a pitching kind of organization. So like Dodgers, Rays, Brewers, would one of those teams take a shot on them? Maybe. We'll see. But I'm kind of surprised he's still here, and maybe they were waiting to see if they could rebuild the value before trading him. But again, where this team is at, it feels like the right time to do a Mick Abel trade. But we'll see. I thought that, frankly, this last offseason and last trade deadline. So who knows? All right, what is next? Early thoughts on the Alvarado outing. Bad, obviously. He was kind of just missing some stuff that wasn't exactly lucky happened. But at the same time, I thought velocity ticked back up. Hadn't pitched in a little while. I know that sounds excuse making, but sometimes excuse making is an explanation as well. And he was off for a little bit. Hadn't pitched a ton. Obviously, closed out the Brewers game. Like, he also looked disgusting in the Brewers outing. So it was definitely bad. Wasn't great. I'm sure the Mets were kind of juiced up to try to come back and win that game. But on my panic meter, am I worried about Jose Alvarado? Absolutely not. If it turns into a problem, which I don't think it will be because his stuff still looks really good, they have so many options there to where if they need to drop him in the high leverage role kind of rankings, like they could bump Strahm up, they could bump Kerkering up, they could bump Hoffman up, so to where they could manage this thing. Now, he is on track to really bypass his total innings in a year total. So I'll be curious to see if they try to kind of manage that a little bit. They've been really good about that the last 2 seasons and getting guys, either it's a phantom IL stint or like even earlier this year, Strahm just took a week off. they just didn't pitch him, and it felt like there was a lot of opportunities for him to kind of come in and help the team win. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do that here with Alvarado, again, given the amount of guys they have, because they do need to make sure that these guys are good to go for October. When you're 25 games over 500, you're playing good ball, you're up 9 on the Braves, you can afford to get guys some rest. We don't need to run them into the ground. So frustrating, not the end of the world. Sometimes, like Cliff Lee said, that's baseball. What's next? All right, TJ. Do you think it's possible that the fan base is hiring Brendan Marsh and the organization seems to be? They seem to platoon him pretty religiously. Then everyone gets pissed about it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair that the organization might not be as high on him. I mean, I battle 2 things with the lefty kind of thing with Brandon Marsh, because on one hand I say, well, they haven't really given him the opportunity to hit against lefties. For a little bit when he's red hot earlier in the season, they did. But how is he supposed to learn how to hit lefties if you don't really give him the at-bats? Versus the other side of my brain, which is well, he does. I mean, the splits for him against lefties is pretty bad. I mean, a couple of months ago, I think his slugging percentage was in the 100s. So it's definitely, it's not what you want to see. So I do understand it from that standpoint. I mean, on the year against lefties, he's slugging. Again, he's slugging 162, which is just brutal. So Stott, I think people still get more mad about when he's taken out of the lineup because they view him as an everyday player, and I think he's an everyday player, but I would like him to heat back up a little bit because he should not be hitting in the 240s. I think he's too talented of a hitter for that. But Marsh just might be a platoon guy. I really like him. I think he's a winning player. I love the energy he brings. I mean, would it be the worst thing in the world if they go and get another, bat, a righty bat to play left field with him, or move him to center field at the trade deadline? It doesn't sound too bad if you think that it gives you a better chance to win. So yeah, I think the Marsh thing is really just I fight both sides because I want him to be an everyday player because I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he hits the ball hard. I think I love him in left field. I mean, numbers wise, he's one of the best defensive left fielders in the game, but the numbers also suggest that he just can't hit lefties, and they seem pretty convinced that he can't. And it's a real shame because I think there's a valuable player in there if he can just be serviceable against lefties. He just hasn't been, and we'll kind of see how they approach a trade deadline with that. Do they look for a platoon there? Do they keep riding in left field? Do they look for a center fielder? I'm not sure. I mean, I guess we'll see. I'm sure we'll get questions about that. But yeah, it definitely feels that way, TJ, that the organization is a little bit lower on Brandon Marsh than the rest of the fan bases. What's next? Reed T, thoughts on Kirkering as a closer option leaves your best right-handed pitcher and left-handed pitcher to be used in high leverage spots. Yeah, I brought this up on the air today in the High Hopes Jackie Baseball Report on the afternoon show, and a little bit here. It's probably not this year because it'd be a reshuffling of a lot of things, and it's not like those guys have been bad in those spots. But I do think that Kirkering could take the job and kind of run with it, especially what we've seen in the last 2 weeks where he's really turned into a dude. Like, he's really turned into, okay, this guy's arrived and he's confident and he believes that he can get his fastball by major league hitters. And watch out, because you couple that with the sweeper, it's a really, really tough at bat. So I think there's eventually going to be that discussion. My question is, like, I wonder what they do with Hoffman. Like, I would extend him. I think that should be a priority. It's not very often you can find guys with 97 and a 91 mile an hour splitter and a slider like he has coming out of the bullpen. I mean, 3-pitch guys out of the bullpen is not. I mean, maybe it's becoming more traditional, but traditionally that is not the case. So yeah, I wonder if they feel like they have enough righty options now to where they can let Hoffman go. I don't think that's the case. I want as many bullpen options as I can get. I'll be curious to see what a Hoffman contract looks like, because if I'm another team out there and I see the kind of stuff that he's flashing and again, we talk about moxie, we talk about stuff, and it was a good interview with the Crossed Up guys, Bob Wankel and Anthony Sanfilippo, and he has the motto on his glove, PHAH, which is bleep all hitters, but with a PH, which is nice. So I hope they extend Hoffman, because I think he's a really, really good option out there. And yes, it's more money out of John Middleton's pocket, but he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So I hope they can do what they did with Strahm. They probably won't do it in the middle of the season. I hope he wants to stay, because he has developed into a really key member of that bullpen. But yeah, I'm with you, Reed. I think Kirkering can 100% develop into a closer option for this team, because again, the stuff, the confidence, letting Hoffman and Alvarado kind of be like Hoffman when he comes in with runners on and comes into dirty innings. I think he's one of the best we've seen. He's really, really good at it. And same thing with Strahm. Strahm's really, really good at it. So Kirkering probably more coming into a clean inning at this point, which obviously is traditionally what closers do. But man, they got some firepower. They really do. They got some firepower out in the bullpen, and it's pretty fun to watch. Rob Thompson said after the game on Saturday, or maybe it was against the Brewers, I forget, but he said that. And I agree with him. Like, on any given night, you can roll out your B squad in like Kirkering and Seranthony and mostly Gregory Soto, and probably win a ball game if your starter can go 6 or 7. And then the next night you can come out with your A team in Strahm, Hoffman, Alvarado, and it's pretty much good morning, good afternoon, good night. So it's a damn good bullpen, and I'm just glad that their ERA is not in the 6s, so we don't have to do the bullpen's going to hold them back, even though the casuals checked out the game yesterday, and I'm sure that they think the bullpen's going to hold them back now. Have no fear. The bullpen's pretty nasty. All right, what's next? Dan Brew. What position will be looking to boost at the deadline, and who do you want? Yeah, it's tricky. It's super tricky, because I talked about on the afternoon show today about how I'm starting to grow into the mindset of like how big of a name are they going to go here, and could it possibly mess up the chemistry that this team has? Like, for anyone who thinks that they're going to start like platooning or just taking Castellanos out of the lineup, it's not happening. I mean, it kind of is what it is with Castellanos. It's almost like you got to sink or swim with him. He is a really important member of this team. He is a leader. The guys really like him. Is he frustrating? Yeah. But are we starting to see some signs of life at the plate? We are. And I think that's at least an encouraging development. So, Luis Robert is the name that he's polarizing from the standpoint of like, a couple years ago, he was viewed as the next Mike Trout. Unbelievable defensive player, light tower power, could hit for average, and was viewed as like a 5-tool legit prospect. And I'm sure we'll obviously get more into this as we get closer to the deadline, so this is like a preview of it. But he's playing for one of the worst organizations in baseball. He's mega talented. It seems like a miserable existence going to White Sox Park or whatever it is called now. Like, no one's there. The team's dead. They don't spend any money. it just doesn't seem that fun to me. So I think getting him out of there, you would possibly get a better version of Luis Robert. Like, I would be surprised if they traded for Luis Robert. He has 3.5 years left, and they don't get 25 to 30 home runs, a higher average, and being able to stay on the field a little bit more. The problem is you look at the numbers, they don't exactly jump out at you. He's hurt all the time, which is not what you want. He plays center field. He's huge for a center fielder, but he's great at it. So he has value in being a center fielder. So he is a really tough case of, like, how far do you want to go into the Luis Robert camp? How do you want to push all your chips in? Like, that, is that the guy? Like, again, Bob Nightingale reported today that, they're looking for a Juan Soto-like package for Luis Robert. That's insane to me. I mean, I know he has 3.5 years, and I appreciate that, but Juan Soto's done a lot. Luis Robert had 1 year. So he's obviously one of the names, and we'll get more into that. Kyle Tucker, again, people keep tweeting me Kyle Tucker stuff. I would just be floored if they actually got rid of him. Now, if they do, yeah, all over it. I mean, no doubt about it. They would have to shut up probably another $300 million contract if you're trading for him. He's a free agent in a year and a half. I hope that you wouldn't have. Wow, who am I? I'd be lying to say it's not going to cost like Aiden, maybe Painter. Like, it's gonna. You're trading 3 of your top 5 prospects if I had to guess to get Kyle Tucker. Again, I'd be surprised if they really do get rid of him. But man, if you add Kyle Tucker, obviously it's a bit of a home run. But other than that, it seems like more of the platoon guys, maybe in left field with Marsh. They seem pretty committed to the Rojas Pache thing in center field, but you can go at and maybe a right-handed, more power bat for left field. If you want to put Marsh in center field, you can. And then bullpen-wise, it's so funny. If I did this a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I'd be saying they probably need another right-handed relief option after Hoffman, because I'm not sure who I trust right now. But you've seen Sir Anthony not allowed to run really in a month. You've seen Kirkering develop into a stud, frankly. And it's like the Soto thing, I'm never going to trust him. Even if he goes on like a 10 outing run where he's allowing like one run during that time, like I don't trust him. The fastball's always been hittable. They seem to always be able to square him up, and maybe if they can go add a lefty option out of the bullpen, we'll see. We'll kind of see it, but I think it's going to be a bat, and the question is, how big do they want to go? The big names are obviously Luis Robert and Kyle Tucker. See if they're really available. See how much Luis Robert really costs, but that's obviously the big swings. And then besides that, it's a couple, kind of fringe pieces, and maybe they try to do what the Braves did in 2021, where it was like Jock Peterson, Adam Duvall, and Jorge Soler, and just get a couple guys out there because they need some production out of the outfield. It's hard to win a World Series with 600 OPSs and 700 or low 700 OPSs, but we'll see. All right, last one here in the mailbag, and then we'll get on out of here. What do we got? Do you think they make a move on? They move on from Taiwan? If so, when do you think they make that decision? Well, Taiwan's hot right now, man. He figured it out on Sunday. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that they'll probably give him another. I think they'll give him till the trade deadline. I really do. Like, up until the trade deadline, that takes you to August. Early August. If they really are worried about Spencer Turnbull's innings, it gives him two months of runway to where you're not kind of running him into the ground, if that's kind of what they want to do. I didn't even mention Turnbull when talking about the bullpen. I guess he's just a mop-up guy now. But, we'll see what they do this offseason. At Taiwan, when they made the decision to put him back in the rotation, listen, he has 2.5 years left on a contract. Yeah, right. 2.5 years left back on a contract. Like, you can't just not pitch him. Obviously, it's been shaky. He's been extended an inning too far. It seems like, most of the outings, or at least 3 of the outings. I just hope he can be serviceable. And I thought Sunday was a good step in that direction of being serviceable. So I think they'll kind of give him as much time until it's blatantly obvious. The 08 Phils gave Adam Eaton a ton of starts before they kind of pulled the plug, maybe after they got Blanton. The good part is they got 4 starters that have an ERA, like under 2.75. So it's not too bad right now with the starting staff. But I think they'll give Taiwan at least until the trade deadline, and then we'll kind of see what happens from there if they want to put Turnbull back in. And I guess kind of ride it out that way. But I think Taiwan's kind of here to stay in the rotation. All right, that is going to do it for me. Thanks to everyone that checked it out and hung out and got some great questions in. Really, really appreciate it. As always, High Hopes is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Phils. Weather's getting hotter. Miller Lights come out. It's a pretty good time. James Seltzer, we'll see how many Miller Lights he had in London. I think we'll do a pod this week. I'm itching to do a real serious High Hopes pod, but that'll probably be later this week. I'm sure he's going to be dead tired getting back from London, so we'll see what the excitement level is to do a pod. But either way, we'll be back. Phil's a bit of a tough little stretch here. It'll be a good test for this team. Obviously, the Red Sox 500, but can do some things. We'll see. I think we're seeing Pivetta this week, which is always exciting. But I always love seeing the Phils play up in Fenway. We all know what Aaron Nola did there in 2018. We don't need to be reminded of 2018 Aaron Nola's start up in Fenway and how phenomenal it was. But yeah, so we got Phils, Red Sox, and then bang, right on the road to Baltimore this weekend, which I can't wait for. I can't wait to see this team go up against the Orioles, who I think are one of the most fun teams to watch in the sport right now. I mean, Gunner's ridiculous, Alley's ridiculous. They got some really, really young studs. So it's not totally fair. Major League Baseball, they go over to London and then we got to fly right to Boston. You can't even get a home series off that. They haven't been home since like Wednesday night. So whatever. And now they're on the road for the rest of the week. So it's gonna be fun. I think this team has been resilient. They've been tough, but I think we'll get a good little test as for how resilient they are. But I'm sure the people that bring up the Phillies schedule are preying on their downfall this week. But again, don't let the Phils have a good week. Don't let the Phils have a good week. Let's have, be more cocky. And I don't know. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to see, how they kind of show up this week. But thanks for hanging out. James Jackson, appreciate you. And we'll be back with another edition of High Hopes later this week.